Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, depending on where you are in the world, and welcome to today's Waste 360 webinar, The Circular Shift, How Performance Sustainability Powers the Future of Resource Management, sponsored by AMCS. I'm Stephanie Valentic, and I'll be moderating today's event. We have just a few announcements before we begin. This webinar is designed to be interactive. The dock of widgets at the bottom of your screen will allow you to learn about today's webinars, download resources, and participate in today's Q&A session that takes place at the end of our discussion. The slides will advance automatically throughout the event. Towards the end of our webinar, we ask you to complete our survey. Please take a minute to fill this out before leaving us today, as your feedback will provide us with valuable information on how we can improve future events. Lastly, if you are experiencing any technical problems, please click the Help widget found at the bottom of your screen, or simply type your issue into the Q&A box, and we will be glad to offer one-on-one assistance. Now on to the presentation, The Circular Shift, How Performance Sustainability Powers the Future of Resource Management. Discussing today's topic are Joe Burkle, CEO of EcoSouth Services, Jeff Arzma, VP of Solutions with AMCS, and Evan Schwartz, Chief Operating Officer of AMCS. To learn more about our panel of speakers, please be sure to check out their respective bios in the Speaker Bios widget found at the webinar platform at the bottom of your screen. Jeff, take it away.
Thank you, Stephanie, and welcome everybody. We're really excited for today's topic. Today we'll be discussing performance sustainability and how it's really powering a future for our resource management or waste and recycling providers. First, a big thank you to Joe Burkle for joining us today and providing us with some insight on all the exciting things and work that EcoSouth and associated companies are doing. So thank you, Joe. We're going to start with a overview of performance sustainability from our North American COO, Evan Schwartz, from AMCS. It's really a new way of thinking about running business in a manner that serves the bottom line, as well as drives environmental and safety outcomes for our industry, the folks that work in it, the communities that we serve. And then we'll shift to a fireside chat with Joe and run through some specifics and the way that digital transformation has changed the way that EcoSouth is running their business and improving the services that they provide. Of course, as Stephanie mentioned, this is interactive, and we would love to hear any questions or points that you as the audience would like to make. So please enter those questions into the chat, and we'll have a Q&A session at the end of the fireside chat. So with that, I'll hand it over to Evan Schwartz, and he can take it away from here.
Thank you, Jeff. I appreciate that. Hello, everyone. Look, welcome to our webinar on performance sustainability. I'm excited to have an opportunity to walk you through how AMCS views sustainability probably differently than what you would see normally across industry experts. And maybe you're seeing this transformation occurring across the board, but we're really adopting a way for us to interact with it. So my name is Evan J. Schwartz, and today what we're going to really dig into is the differentiator in the way that AMCS brings a different vision to sustainability. Often the word sustainability, they immediately think about reduced carbon emissions, saving paper, recycling plastics. And look, those are certainly very important areas, broad perspectives, and they're good for the environment responsibly. But there's also a financial aspect to sustainability, and that's where AMCS brings in and has coined the phrase performance sustainability. So when we look at what traditional sustainability is, it often focuses on environmental measures like reducing emissions, conserving resources, and generally doing good for the planet. And look, these are great practices. They're valuable. Companies sometimes see them, though, as feel-good measures or compliance measures that ultimately end up impacting a cost or slowing down operations in the short term. Where AMCS is bringing a different vision of performance sustainability, we take sustainability a step further. We're linking the environmental benefits directly to a financial or operational performance efficiency gain. It's an end-to-end perspective. It requires you to kind of zoom out a little bit across various aspects, and I'll have a chance to look at that in just a second. But even if you're just looking at vehicle route optimization, something a lot of us understand well in the industry, that's an idealistic view, right, when you've put it together. But there's a lot of factors that can impact that optimized route where you don't always maximize the value that you can get out of it. Digitizing manual processes also sounds very good on paper and has an idealistic view. And then there's a number of things that have a tendency to impact, do you get the efficiencies and resources that you had planned out of it? Looking at resource maintenance on your vehicles or assets, same thing. Over and over again, we've looked very deeply at a very specific activity within your overall process, and we've created an idealistic way to optimize it. But if you don't zoom out and look up and downstream, you have a tendency to miss things. So performance sustainability is really about running business efficiencies responsibly. Every action in the process, from how you plan your routes to how you handle your maintenance on your vehicles, from how you measure the contamination or overfilled containers, or how you're managing paper or digital processes, all of these things have an impact both on your carbon footprint and your financial bottom line. So what AMCS is proving successful is that we're putting the word "and" back into sustainability. We're sustainable and profitable at the same time. So in traditional linear models, you take resources, you use them, and then you dispose of them. This approach results in wasted raw materials, wasted energy, and ultimately wasted money and time often. But circular approaches find ways to keep those resources in play a lot longer. Reuse, recycle, repurpose to get the maximum value before they exit the system, before they exit your process. So why does this matter? Because the circular model forces us to think differently about our processes, our consumption habits. Instead of just focusing only on the immediate product or service, we're able to look upstream and downstream and see where those resources could be reused and can leverage existing assets more efficiently. How might one small change early in the process have a profound impact or reduce waste or reduce substantial costs? So by thinking of the life cycle across the entire process, the entire vertical chain, beyond just the point of use, businesses are unlocking new efficiencies and creating new opportunities for revenue and growth. It's as much about business strategy as it is about environmental impact. So as we look at this example, we've got a number of very specific verticals built into this. Vehicle route optimization, contamination, being able to detect it at the collection point, container overfill management, the ability to make sure that what you have said you would pick up is what you're going to pick up and not more than that, or if there is more, you can react to it. Being able to analyze the health of your assets or your vehicles by analyzing the fluids. Do they need to be maintenance? Do I need to take something out of service? Do I need to replace it? Do I need to sell it? And then, of course, the ones that we've been seeing over the last decades is digitalization, reduction on paper and manual processes. Each one of these by themselves has a great use case by reducing overall carbon footprint, wasted resources, and everything. But if we just look across this supply chain, if I've built an optimized route for my vehicles to run, and maybe I had 10 vehicles, and because of this optimized route, I think I can now run it with 8, and I can take 2 vehicles out of the process. That's a significant savings. But if I take that vehicle on the route and I'm collecting a value stream, and I find out that value stream is contaminated, I've now upset that optimized route. That idealistic route is no longer there because I've encountered something that I didn't plan for, predict, or have the ability to detect and react to. So being able to detect that contamination, the source, gives me a couple of options. I could either charge the offender or I can correct the behavior of the offender. And that's allowing me to get back to my idealized, optimized route. I'm taking variables out of the equation by looking upstream and pre-planning risk mitigation on how I can manage that and be able to bring those resources back to bear. Same thing for overfilled containers. When you're optimizing a route and you're collecting a waste stream, the expectation is that truck can only carry so much before it has to go do a tip. If I'm overfilled a lot of containers on a route and I'm having to go tip early, that's disrupting my optimized route, right? So again, I'm trying to make sure that everything upstream is driving back downstream to that optimized efficiency to be able to get as much as I can out of it. Field services, if I don't have to take a vehicle out of service to change its oil or do maintenance on it, that's really what I'm looking to see if I can keep that resource in play, because if I take it out, lost opportunity, I'm introducing additional waste into the environment by changing out oils that maybe I didn't have to change. Having the ability to gather that analytics and know if that vehicle is running well, because also a poorly running vehicle isn't optimized on the route either, right? And then we're all very familiar with the digitalization processes, taking manual processes out and paper. So look, by seeing the interconnections, organizations can create ripple effects. These become multiplicative across it. You may have optimized your routes and you see benefits from it, but you may not be realizing or properly reacting to when one of your service points has more stuff than you plan to pick up, if it's waste stream, or has contaminated your value stream. You're still getting value out of it, but you're not getting the maximum value you could. You can't get the full benefit out of it. So by looking up and downstream, we're really supporting this more significantly in ways that just weren't possible even 5 years ago. So why does this matter for the future? The future of resource management in a circular economy is it's connected and data driven. You have to be able to get that analytics back. You have to be able to react to it and then be able to do something with it. As the world grapples with rising costs of materials, stricter environmental regulations, changing consumer expectations, even the current geopolitical market expectations, businesses that embrace performance sustainability are going to be way ahead of the curve rather than having to react and play catch up when these things hit us. It's more resilient, it's more profitable, and it aligns with the global push towards reducing your collective ecological footprint. So let me wrap it up before we get into it. I'd like to remind you that performance sustainability is more than a feel-good sustainability effort. It's about rethinking every process from the first mile to the last mile and understanding that each decision impacts both your bottom line and the shared environment. At AMCS, we're passionate about being able to help businesses evolve from a linear to a circular model, ensuring that those resources the resources they're using are optimized, waste is minimized, and the financial performance is maximized. So thank you for listening and joining today. I hope this inspires you the way it's inspired us at AMCS. You look at your own operations through a performance sustainability lens. And today with the Fireside Chat, we're going to delve deeper into these concepts. And I look forward to answering your questions. Jeff, back to you.
Great. Thank you for that introduction, Evan. We'll turn now to our guest, Joe Burkell with EcoSouth. And Joe, would love for you to get the audience acquainted with you and your company. Brief introduction of yourself and of EcoSouth.
Okay, thank you, Jeff, and welcome everyone. A little about EcoSouth / Live Oak. We use a trade name across two different trade names across our footprint, which basically goes from the Florida Panhandle through coastal Alabama, Mississippi, north, west Louisiana, and the east side of Texas from top to bottom. So quite a diverse area, residential, commercial, industrial, as well as 3 landfills within our footprint. So we have plenty to keep us busy. Been in the business a long time, obviously. Spent most of my career with public companies, Waste Management, and much longer time at Republic Services. So, and then a few years ago, had a chance to hop over and and joined the private equity world, and we're growing the business down here in the Southeast. So,
and we've really enjoyed watching the growth, not only regionally, but as you've expanded into different lines of business and disciplines, but still kept the nimble nature of your organization, and obviously the very talented folks that you have running it. So thanks for that introduction. Evan brought up digitalization, and as we talk about data and what we can do with it. There's no shortage of data or information out there, right? Often we think we're in a bit of a data overload. You and I have talked that data is only useful when it's actionable, right? When it's targeted at the behavior you want to drive or the things that are worth measuring. Tell us a little bit about how you've been able to harness data and use Power BI or analytics to give insights to your different departments and help direct your organization towards the goals that you want to achieve.
Well, thank you, Jeff. Obviously, we all know that we get and collect just reams of data every day, and that's been the history of the business. But for so long, we collected a lot of information, and we created a lot of interesting reports, but there was so much data and the ability to interlink various systems, so made it a little bit more difficult to be actionable. It's interesting and helpful, but not as helpful as it could be. So we try to focus on actionable insights, as Jeff said. Systems such as our billing and routing system, our route optimization systems, maintenance. Don't forget payroll. An ADP type program, but the ability to tie all that information together across the stack, goes back to the use of having that information in a data warehouse. We can pull it out with a tool such as Power BI, and there's many other reporting tools to give us the analytics, and even more importantly, we're able to gain those insights, but we're able to get them in near real time. The ability to see how we performed the day before, first thing in the morning, and then react to it, to see how a landfill performed the day before in terms of tons and hours and fuel burn and all that stuff to manage the cost. We're able to get virtually, as I say, near real time. It's not immediate. I'm not sure we could do much with it immediate anyway. So, by the next morning, we're able to look at what we did the day before and how we react to it, rather than, which I guess has been history a long time, at the end of the month when you get the financials, and maybe it's 5-6 days into the month before you get a close if you're good. If not, it may be the middle of the month, and then you're halfway through another month or more before you can even make changes and react to all the data. So it's really important to get that real-time look, and we do it through using a tool like a Power BI to pull that across all the stack of our software.
Yeah, no, it's a common challenge, and even in your narrative, I think you listed 4 or 5 different sources of data, and so to have the ability to consolidate that, have the targeted reports or insights that your different stakeholders may need, and then use that to actually influence a result rather than simply report out what happened in the past. Certainly seems to have been a driver of your success. Tell us a little bit about what it's meant for the accessibility of that data. Certainly I know you travel quite a bit. We brought up the regional expansion that you've done. What does it mean to be able to access that data when you're on the go, when you need it, when you're on a site, rather than being tied to a computer or an on-prem system that may be a little bit more difficult to access?
Well, obviously, it allows us all to be more in the field with the part of our team that actually makes the money, and that's our drivers, mechanics, and operators. So we're able to get out there, and because of having the accessibility to these tools and the data warehouse, we can deliver it to, I'll say, virtually any device. So we put it, the dashboard's relevant to that position, whether it be a landfill manager, a hauling manager, whatever, to their laptop, again, near real time. So not only can we travel and look at things, but we're looking for them to find those insights themselves and help drive the business. We don't want to wait till you have a monthly review or what have you. We want them finding those insights and driving change, right away, as quickly as we can. And again, because we can go across all the stack, we can not only add key performance indicators, thinking in terms of operational metrics, but we can tie them back with financial metrics and payroll metrics and that to give us a better feel of, what the changes will do for us as far as improving the business.
So Joe, let me ask you a quick question, because we often focus on the tech because that's the business that we're in. But as you know, the people is what makes everything run. So what were some of the challenges on user adoption, the changes that people had to do? Because sometimes, you've got the data, it's the actioning of that data, getting it to the folks. Did you run into opposition? Was it welcomed? Was it hard to get people to adopt it? And how did you come to the metrics that you were able to get exposed out there?
Well, great question. And I think we started with dashboards, so we can present the key information that somebody can use immediately in a very simple, easy to look format. In other words, you're not going through and, trying to pull insights out of a spreadsheet. It's graphical in nature. So that makes the adoption much easier. And for folks that might need to do a little more analysis, we have the drill down feature, so we can get to the details of the data right from the device, or if they so choose, go to a bigger format screen, so you can work through it, but they can get to those details. But the high level information they can react to instantly is presented in a dashboard type format that's very easy to use and consume. So I think that helps with adoption quite a bit. If you send somebody, spreadsheet with thousands of lines, it's really hard to get the insights out of that. But if you can give the key points, the key metrics, again, coupled with financial information in a very easy to consume format, I think that not only makes you move faster, but it certainly helps with the adoption.
Perfect.
I appreciate that. And talking about some of the action, one of the things that you spent a lot of time and your organization did last year was looking into the efficiency of your routes, certainly as you've grown and developed some density, but needed a digital manner to do that analysis. So we'll turn our attention to route optimization. What are some of the things that firstly kind of directed you to identify you had an opportunity to optimize your collection routes? What set you down the path of investing into that effort?
Well, for us, we've grown through a number of acquisitions. And so, some of the first things you do when we do these acquisitions, we're virtually, a lot of it is open market commercial or subscription residential. You find yourself where you've bought a company, you've got two of your own trucks on the same street or in the same block or in the same area. So first step is doing some conversions into one common software for billing and planning, scheduling. So that was a huge effort there to get it down. So now we're down to being able to separate those customers geographically, so to speak, and keep trucks from virtually running into each other on the same street or even behind the same shopping center. So a lot of work goes into that, and then we go into the route optimization. And I think that there's always a lot of opportunity with route optimization, but in that first pass, there's huge ability to add those efficiencies. And of course, we partition the work, and the route optimization is all about finding the most efficient travel path, which is usually the shortest one, but maybe not. But it's the most efficient travel path that set of customers and deliver on their needs, such as time windows and all that, and do it very, very quickly. I can remember been around a long time when we used to do that by, sitting at a wall with a big map and putting pins or stick-on dots up there by day, and then, kind of making a list of those and see if it made sense, and then go back to the, back and forth. So it literally could take weeks and weeks, many weeks, to do a major reroute. And now it's we can do it very, very quickly and get very efficient routes out. I think one thing that does for us, we have I call it the big bang from that initial rerouting of the various, acquired companies. But then on an ongoing basis, we're able to tweak those routes and keep them optimized at a much higher frequency. I think that a lot of people will say, well, we build our routes and we leave slack in it, or we leave room in it so we can add stops without having to reroute. And we're just the opposite. We don't want to leave any slack in there, because we can go in and run it back through the optimization tools very quickly and make those adjustments, rather than spend extra time, fuel, hours running inefficiently just to allow room for growth.
Well, and it's interesting the lessons you learned through the initial optimization. You mentioned it was the big bang. I imagine there was a lot of data cleanup that went through that, refining, the information about the stops, the time windows, right? How much flexibility did you have if you needed to move days or shift somebody from the start of a route to the end of a route? Learned a lot about what your drivers, valued in their working day, right? What routes they'd accept to run, or tell you they'd accept to run, but maybe they in reality aren't. So how do you take some of those lessons learned through that initial, and have you laid those in as best practices now to make those iterations of continued optimization more efficient?
Yeah, we have. And I think that early on, and when I first got involved with, this optimization programs, there were many people in the business that felt like, oh, we just put all the stops in there, hit the button, and it gives you perfect routes. I wish that were true. It doesn't work that way. You have things like time stops, and you have certain other information that must be included. Geocoding has gotten much, much better. It's still not 100% perfect. It's getting there. It all goes back to the quality of the data that goes in there, and the more we can learn about each stop, that arms the tool to build the best possible routes. But I am a firm believer that even beyond all that, and as good as the optimization tools are, you still go back to the drivers and go over the routes before implementation, really line by line. And, okay, what are we missing here? Because you're talking to somebody that's out on the street every day, and there may be some information that wasn't accounted for because we just didn't have a way to put it in the system. So we try to allow for that, and also you get better buy-in when the drivers are part of that solution. So we get a much higher quality product, I believe, by augmenting or supplementing one with the other. But it's all about good data in, and then and again listening to the drivers, and you get a really good product.
It's a great point, and all about capturing that realized value. The interesting thing about digital tools like a route optimization tool is it will give you exactly what you ask it for, which is the most optimal route, but it can only use the information presented to it. What's the demand, right? What's the information about the services you're providing? What are the resources that it's using to service that demand? And if you're not giving it all the information, you're going to get a less than desirable result. And of course that has an impact as you try to roll that out. So good data hygiene practices up front, collaborating with your drivers and your dispatchers and route managers that really know the business the best, right? And can get that institutional knowledge into a system of record, and then getting into a practice of maintaining all of that so you can go through fast iterations. I think that's really a good key for success.
Well, and I think, Jeff, it comes down to once you go through this process and you identify, at least on paper, some significant savings, and generally that's in terms of miles, which equates to time and which equates to money. How do you cash that check, so to speak? The optimum way is when you can actually take trucks off the street and as I said, make them go away. That always shows up on the P&L immediately, but sometimes when we're doing tweaks, you don't necessarily get the full route that goes away, but maybe you take some days out of the routes, or maybe the one that, a lot of people talk about, well, we'll reduce the hours, but how do you cash that check? And because drivers can tend to slow down a little bit rather than bring in that route savings. So it takes close management there. But to me, what that does for you and the big benefit, you reduce the size of routes. It gives you the ability to add more revenue producing work on that same route. The goal is to reduce, if you can't reduce routes, reduce hours, and then build it back and keep that truck as fully tasked as possible. A new front loader now or an automated side loader, we're north of $400,000 now. And I'm afraid to say it won't be long before we'll be $500,000, collection vehicles. We just have got to have, I always, say that truck's not making any money unless the arms are going up and down. So it doesn't make any money driving down the road. So reducing the miles and getting them to the stops and building that density and the ability to produce more revenue with that truck is absolutely key going forward. And I think everybody on the call understands not only the truck's more expensive, they're not any cheaper to operate either. In fact, more expensive to operate. Parts and labor and all that is more and more and more. So, short of monstrous price increases, we just got to be more and more efficient.
It's a good differentiation, right? Obviously, you've got your operating cost, per hour, per year with a vehicle, right? Then you've got a driver who also operates that vehicle, and a lot of people are hesitant about impacting their driver's work, and of course, you can reduce the operating hours of a vehicle and still keep a driver on full time, right? And that helps de-risk your business, give you the opportunity to maximize the revenue generating potential of that vehicle. But at the time that you've taken unnecessary burden off of that vehicle, it can be off the road and not putting wear and tear on your tires, using up your fluids that you're going to have to replace, having a risk of a safety incident or a breakdown, right? So you're going to get more use out of that vehicle for lower cost, and then safeguard as you grow against that tipping point when you have to add a $300,000, $400,000, maybe $500,000 vehicle in the future. So I think that's a really great way to look at how to not only safeguard your current margin, but give you some more buffer to actually grow, both from a top line and a margin perspective.
Absolutely. The big dollars are the operating costs of the vehicle. So if you can get them off the street. And as we think about that in terms of, we start off the conversation talking about sustainability from a different perspective, Evan, it also aids to traditional sustainability, because when the truck's off the road, because we reduced miles and we're not burning fuel when it's off the road, the emissions on that truck is zero.
That's exactly right.
We are contributing to the sustainable, from the environmental perspective as well by reducing those miles.
And that is the whole point of performance sustainability.
That's it. That is it. And then you're adding. I like the way you said that. Put the "and" in there. And profitable.
Yeah. And profitable. That's exactly right.
Good. Well, thanks for that walk around route optimization, Joe. As we talked about, you've grown regionally, grown lines of business. Kind of started in the industrial side with your business in Mobile and your industrial landfill. You've expanded to more post-collection and transfer facilities in different states, obviously getting into commercial and residential collection. What have you learned about, or some of the lessons learned in those expansions, whether getting into new regions or new lines of business? that you can share with the audience who are also maybe looking to have their own growth story?
I think it comes back to really four things. First, taking care of people. You mentioned it, Jeff. They're our most valuable resource. I know everybody says that, but that is absolutely true. And as we know, as we go through hiring and training now, when you get the right people, they are so valuable to our success. And then it's just, we start with thinking about things as a three-legged stool. Won't stand without missing any of the three legs. So it's safety, service, and efficiency. Now, safety is always first to us. There's a priority there, but one's not more important than the other. But our first priority is being safe. If we can't put a truck on the street and make sure that our driver comes home safely and we protect the public we serve, then I'm not looking at what are we trying to do here if we can't do that. So safety is absolutely key. And second, as you go into any market, it's service, and it's really paying attention to voice of the customer. And we try to always think about things about how it will affect it from the customer perspective. There's lots of things we can do, and that make our life easier or more efficient than that. But you have to stop. How's it going to affect our customer? So the service is so important. So and then we get into the efficiency. And efficiency means a lot of things to me. It means obviously the productivity and how much work per hour or units per hour we can get from that expensive truck, but also operating it in the most efficient way, taking care of it to make sure it lasts. So now we talk about maintenance software and PMs and that stuff are so important. So we get the full life of the truck. I think certain components wear out and they have a normal expected life. As long as we get to the end of that life, that's great. If they fail early, we need to know why. What did we do wrong? What did we not maintain? So efficiency, and then again back to the routing. The efficiency of the capital. Again, they're very expensive trucks. So if we can reroute and hold off a little while longer before we invest in that next $500,000 truck or $400,000 truck, that's huge from an efficiency perspective. So as we go into any new market, I think it's a training and a culture thing that has to be brought into the new area, the new organization, the new people. They're all important, and we don't compromise on any of them, but especially on safety.
And I think one of the things that you've done especially well is putting in the mechanisms to start measuring, right, and introducing kind of that data capture and those actionable insights to help drive that behavior. Interested a little bit, growth is about people too, and for your customers who are, really that's the power as you grow, right? You want to keep those customers that have just joined your new family. What are some of the things that you've done to smooth the customer journey as they've come along through some of your growth, and maybe you've made things easier to do business with EcoSouth than maybe they had experienced before?
That's certainly true. I think that there's some research out there that we talk a lot about net promoter scores and that type stuff. But one thing that is, there's some research that one thing that's really important to customers is just making an easy experience. So we really try to think through as we implement things that does it make it more difficult for a customer to communicate with us, or we want to make it as easy as possible to to pay their bill, because that's obviously we do a service, we expect to be paid. So we try to make that much easier and allow them to do it many different ways. We allow them to communicate with how they choose, whether it be through email, phone calls, chat, text. We are trying to make it, I've heard people talk about pushing customers into a certain channel of communications, and our philosophy is let's make them all equally good, and they'll choose the one they like. And we're seeing more and more customers that want to communicate with us in some way other than a phone call. Mm-hmm. So, which is good, and if that's what they so choose. But we are very, very happy to talk to them as well. And we just see a lot of companies, I think, today that try to force that away from.
Yeah.
Phone calls, and we're happy to do it how they choose, making that part of making ourselves easy to do business.
In many ways, the most valuable voice is the one you hear. It's a big challenge to keep a customer happy if they can't express their thoughts, concerns, what they want to do with you. That's great. We've talked about a lot of the things that have gone right, and what are some of the big challenges that you've faced or continue to face as you grow, try to improve the business, look at the trends in the market? What are some of those challenges that you're looking to overcome?
From my perspective, and I know that we have a lot of people listening today, I think we might all give the same answer as people. It's keeping enough people, enough skilled people, and enough people with the right attitude. We always say we can train skills. We can teach you to drive any kind of truck. It's hard to train somebody to have that customer first attitude and that can-do attitude. So that's something that is a challenge. It really is a challenge, and in today's labor market, it's tough. And then once you get those folks and you got them trained and they're doing a great job, retaining them. You got to spend a lot of time doing what keeping those people happy, keeping them bored, keep them engaged, because they're the key to our success.
Back to your three-legged stool. I think those got to prop up your people. A key part of the growth strategy. Good.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, Evan, I think we've maybe come to the point where we can take a look at some questions that the audience has raised.
Yep.
Do we have any that jump out at you that we can pick off and chat about in the time we have remaining?
So here's one. It's basically saying, in addition to the adoption of, what are some of the other challenges a company or organization may face as they move towards using big data tools? So what were some of the things you didn't expect? We talked about the people adopting the output, right? So you've almost done the work, but getting to the point where you'll be able to put something in front of someone. Talk a little bit about how that adoption worked, maybe across your IT department or your business leaders investing in it, that kind of thing.
One challenge that, and I don't think this is unique to that. It's unique to a lot of software. And Evan, you and I may have had this conversation before. As we start to develop some of the tools, we know what the metrics are. We know kind of what we want to see, but what we don't know is we don't know the capabilities of the software, and we don't know the art of the possible. So sometimes we don't know what we don't know, and we don't know all the questions we can ask. So, we have learned to try to start with, here's what we're trying to accomplish, and rely on our partners, that are much more knowledgeable in software and development to help us, collaboratively get to what we're trying to get at. Sometimes we have it in our mind what we want to see. We just don't quite know how to get there because we don't know the right questions to ask. And I think that goes with a lot of software. It's always a challenge when you go to something new. I've seen folks that just try to change software and then try to make it look just like what they changed from. Does that make sense?
Right.
And
yeah.
So that's a real challenge, I think, in adopting any of this technology.
Yeah, and look, it also ends up blinding you to the possibility because you're just recreating what you know.
Yeah.
So speaking of that, so as you've gone through, because you mentioned the Power BI, the centralized reporting and access, is there an instance where exposing this data provided maybe or uncovered a hidden inefficiency or opportunity that you weren't targeting? It exposed something that you were like, oh, we didn't think about that, and that those data's lined up just right.
Absolutely. Absolutely. again, when you again start coupling information across the systems, it does expose some things going on. And some of it may be as simple as just a compliance issue. So that stuff all surfaces when you can look at it across the stack, and we can let more people from different areas of the company see this information. So we start bringing out new ideas. Oh, wait a minute, that may be a problem from a wage and hour perspective or whatever. So yeah, absolutely. It does bring in some. We didn't anticipate, getting some of that information that, again, because we have actionable insights, it uncovers itself.
So I guess on the back of that, another question came in and said, what is the data showing from waste volumes, types of waste? In other words, as you're collecting the material, you're sorting through it, you're looking at the volumes coming in, the types of waste. Is it revealing anything or offering you any information on your circular operation? Did it evoke a change for you?
Yeah, I think so, because now we're getting, your real-time information regarding performance, not from the last month, but from the day before or the week before. So we're able to look at the efficiencies of the routing in terms of, densities and productivity, and being able to look at, we got two routes with the same density, but they got completely different productivity. That doesn't give you the answer; it gives you the question to ask.
Sure.
Well,
Yeah, exactly.
Well, why? So you start seeing things like that in real time, and all of a sudden, we see our disposal going up. We're able to very quickly say, well, where our pounds per yard, for example, are up month over month. Which route? Which customers? So we can start.
That's great insight, Joe. So it exposes the question. You don't get the answer out of it. It gives you the question that you need to go find. I think that's often missed. People were expecting this analytics to give them the answer, and they come in with the wrong expectation, and they don't get the ROI out of it. That's a great insight.
Actually, yep, gives you the questions, because so many times the averages sort of mask the bad, because the good is really good, and you might have some underperforming, and you come to an average and say, well, that's pretty good. Well, if you can keep bringing the underperformers up to the average, you keep raising the bar by asking the right questions.
So another one here I think is a very good one, and there's just a ton in here, so I'm scattershotting, guys in the audience. Apologize here, but this one's saying, how do you approach change management rolling out real-time safety tools and the route optimization? What helped your team buy into the new system and process? And I would say we talked about the business intelligence for your operational managers, but you were saying, look, the lifeblood of your business is your drivers. So you got to get them adopted into it. So for your managers, it was easy to see analytics, right? Very easy to read. But what got your drivers to buy it?
I think, and let me use this one as an example, because I think there's probably people that have struggled with this one as we move to putting cameras in our trucks. So we're looking at the driver, we're looking at the behaviors outside the truck, inside the truck. We're collecting some data about speeds and the like, following distances and the like. A lot of distrust there from drivers early on, and so it takes a lot of just talk and working with the drivers for them to understand. We don't put them in there to play gotcha. The last thing in the world that we want to do is put something in that's to play gotcha and we lose a driver. We use them to train and teach and hopefully make someone successful for as long as we can keep them around. So but then everybody's kind of a show me kind of thing as we get into using these systems, and we tell them more often than not information that we may see if there is an incident, it's exculpatory for the drivers. It doesn't go against them. It helps us say, no, we did the right thing. And which goes to service verification, although in our case, if a customer thinks they're missed, we treat it as a miss. And then if it's a repeat thing, that's something else. But we know,
Right.
I always like to be able to go back to our drivers and say, I know you got it, but customer thinks feels like we didn't empty the container on time, so let's go take care of it because they're our customer.
Sure.
And
Look, I even remember the drivers pushing back when GPS was first introduced into the truck, thought that you were tracking them on the GPS big board, right? So it's always, you've got to give them something out of it as well, right? And being able to protect the driver, have the video that shows that container was blocked or wasn't out. Look, we're going to still go out and service the customer, but you're now able to do right by the driver because you've got the evidence right there. And now they're seeing those guys, their things aren't there to track them. It's actually helping protect them and their narrative. So that's good.
Yep.
Let's see what else we got in here. Do the tools collect any information as to the nature of the material being collected at curbside? So that's cameras on the truck. That would be, we're working with contamination in the hopper, but do you have anything that you're looking at, or maybe what you've got planned for the future to be able to detect?
We're not doing that today, but again, I use the term art of the possible. It certainly is possible, and it's a lot more possible today than it was, Evan, I think even 3 years ago. As AI is getting better, camera technology is getting better, the ability to recognize materials, that is changing so fast. So obviously all within the art of the possible. It's not something we have moved into yet.
So speaking of that, is there something what's your next performance sustainability objective? What are you guys chasing that you haven't gotten across the line yet?
Again, we're still, we're not all the way finished with what we have with our existing systems and the amount of information that's back there in the warehouse from a BI perspective, and really haven't scratched the surface. I'm interested to see how we make and use some AI to help us analyze those and pull deeper insights out quicker.
Yeah, look, you're not the only company looking to figure out how to make use of AI. We get every single one of our customers is asking that. So another good question just popped into the chat. It's tech-enabled growth. So as your business has grown and diversified, how has technology helped you streamline operations across multiple business lines while still delivering a consistent customer experience? So normalizing the way that across multiple your business lines are operating and your customer experience from those work.
I would say that the biggest benefit, especially over a big footprint, is back office. Being able to do more with less, being able to have people at various locations interact with customers wherever they may be, having our accounting systems centralized, but yet we can look at financials down to the line of business level at individual site, but it all rolls up seamlessly, so that just saves tremendous cost and time. At the end of the month when we're doing a financial close, it's that's fairly automated. Maybe there's more to do there, but we're fairly automated in that. And our all of our billing systems are, we've got those down to where it doesn't take a lot of people to get this work done.
If you don't mind sharing it, was there a 10 people to 6 people? Where have you relocated or been able to reallocate those resources? What was the gain there?
Well, it's a great question. It's a little bit hard to answer because we've grown by so many acquisitions, and I tend to say it this way. It's kind of a simple way of saying it. When we do an acquisition, really all we want to do is add trucks and drivers.
Right.
We don't want, we want to tuck it into existing infrastructure, and we've done a pretty good job of that. I will tell you that our back office staff has grown at a much slower pace than our operational employees.
So is the investment that you've made across the optimization, performance, sustainability, has that enabled your acquisition strategy, your cash to value? Have you seen that play, or is it now you're having to acquire a company that's maybe not at your level and there's a heavy lift, or do they just lock right on it?
Well, I think that when we're looking at bringing bringing acquisitions in, we are able to bring them in much quicker using technology, and using some tools that obviously you guys helped us with to
Sure.
bring all that into our software much quicker. Bring the billing and cash collections in much quicker. Do the route optimization so that when we look at acquisitions and potential synergies, I like to use the term cash. We want to cash that check as quickly as we can, and where in the past that might have taken 3, 4, 5, even 6 months to get those integrated where we can start seeing the benefit. We want to see that benefit in a month, and certainly no more than 2. By bringing them and get them integrated as much quicker, and we've gotten better at that. And I think a lot of people have. I don't think we're doing anything unique there, but bringing those folks in and get them integrated much faster has been really important for us.
Okay. Jeff, anything more on your side?
No, I think we certainly enjoyed the conversation and the ability to dive deep, Joe, into the things that have brought you forward on the journey to date, and then a bit of insight on where you're going from here. So we appreciate the insight, and thank you to the audience for great questions and participation that makes these events fun. Evan, thank you for kicking us off and carrying the performance sustainability message. Stephanie, we'll hand it back to you.
Muted.
I think you're on mute, Stephanie.
Before we sign off, I'd like to thank our presenters, Joe, Jeff, and Evan, as well as our sponsor, AMCS. Within the next 24 hours, you'll receive a personalized follow-up email with details and a link to today's presentation on demand. Please feel free to invite your colleagues and peers who may not have been able to listen to the event today. Thank you much for attending, and have a great rest of the day.
Thank you.